Today in the crypto space, we see the market kind of going sideways. Bitcoin at about 43,000, Ethereum still around that $2,300 mark, and the rest of the crypto space, the altcoins, are pretty much mixed as well. We have a few dips, we have a few gainers, and this is the name of the game. All right, guys, in today's video, we're going to talking about the general market. We're going to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, but more importantly, I want to talk about one altcoin that has been retracing, and maybe it is a good DCA opportunity, and that project is called Taraxa. So you know what? Let's talk about the news. Let's analyze the charts and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it. Here on the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities. Whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, all we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate that strategy, subscribe to the channel, click that bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. You can hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. All right, guys, let's begin. Let's take a look at what's going on here in this market. First, we'll take a look at the general market. We'll scrape through the top 100, see what's going on here, get a sense of what's happening in the last 24 hours. Then we'll look at Bitcoin as a leading indicator to kind of give us an idea of what this heavyweight could be doing in the immediate short term. Just keep in mind, any volatility in Bitcoin could definitely translate into much more volatility into the altcoin market. So we gotta want to use Bitcoin as an indication. And then, of course, we're going to be talking about Taraxa. It's been on a bit of a retracement the last little while, but don't forget, Taraxa has been really running. So is this an opportunity to buy the dip and DCA? Or should we be preparing for further continuation to the downside? All right, guys, so let's begin. Let's see what's going on here. Bitcoin going sideways, Ethereum still going sideways. So the two heavyweights are still not really showing us a clear direction. Ultimately, what we really want to root for is Ethereum to run. We want Ethereum to move, give us an indication that the market in general is looking and is okay with taking a bit more risk in this market, right? So Ethereum is that indication. We have BNB going sideways, Solana going sideways after a bit of a retracement, down approximately 13% in the last 7 days, give or take. So this is the thing here, guys. We see Solana retracing. Solana was a very hot narrative, but you have to understand, no matter how hot the narrative is, there are individuals that want to take profit. Okay, so this is what we have to understand. Solana right around that psychological $100 mark is a decent level to hold, and we want to see Solana stay around that $100 mark. All right, guys, let's continue. We have AVAX also retracing a little bit, still around that $40, and a lot of the market has retraced already and is flatlined, like Polygon, Chainlink, and a few others here. If we keep on going down, ICP is still grinding to the upside, however, down 10%. It's still up 35% for the week, so decent. What else do we have? We have Cosmos, not really doing much, unfortunately. I would like to see Cosmos fly. And Filecoin is waking up 15% to the upside. I'm a big believer in decentralized storage, and of course, Filecoin being the heavyweight in that space is definitely leading the way in the current scenario. Now, what could be causing this catalyst? I'm wondering if there's anything fundamentally. I know I have a lot of experience using Filecoin, given you know that a lot of NFTs are using Filecoin to decentralize their storage. So that for me is a good real world use case. And of course, Web3, decentralizing all the Web3 assets in a very decentralized way is obviously a good thing. So I'm wondering what really is the catalyst for Filecoin, and I'm wondering if lower cap projects such as Crust, or even what's it called, even it's slipping my mind, but there are other projects that are doing a very similar thing that at the end of the day should be running up with Filecoin. Near protocol kind of dipping down to lower levels, also going sideways. So the trend is continuing throughout the market, where some of the good movers have been retracing. Near protocol did pretty good in the last little while, but down 10% in the last 7 days. Monero, what else do we have? Aptos kind of going sideways, nothing crazy. The market is very sideways today, as you can see. Arbitrum, Arbitrum's not doing much. much the layer twos usually run when Ethereum looks strong. So Ethereum right now is potentially looking for that breakout, and we can see Arbitrum and Optimism and even Neon. Guys, if you missed out on my deep dive yesterday on Neon, I suggest you take a look if you're interested in that project. That video, this video right here, will definitely spell out a lot of what you need to know in order to get fundamentally bullish on this project. I think it's a decent one, so go check it out if you missed out on that one. All right, so let's continue here. The graph, we have Aave kind of going sideways, a lot of sideways price action. Ortiz, okay, doing okay, but still retracing in the last little while. BitTensor's in a retracement as well. I also gave you an update on BitTensor. I think it's time to be watching for signs of a reversal in the short term, even if it's on the 4-hour time frame. We have BTT going sideways, of course, and we have KuCoin going sideways. The market is very sideways today, and as expected, it's the holidays. People are kind of taking some time off to relax and spend time with their families, but we have BitGet running again for another impulsive move to the upside. Could this be another indication that the market is ready to get into these altcoins again? And we know that BitGet and KuCoin and many others, MEXC, of course, we can't forget that one, you know, definitely have a lot to do with these lower cap projects. You know, they list a lot of them, and that gives us an indication that maybe the market is looking to get into those lower caps and into those altcoins. So we'll use some of the exchange tokens as a potential indication here. As we continue down, we have a lot of good projects going sideways or on a retracement, and the question is, should we be buying the dip? Okay, so guys, today's video obviously is all about Taraxa, but I think that it's a viable decision to start looking at Bitcoin. So what, you know, let's begin by looking at Bitcoin. We can see that this is a Taraxa chart, but ultimately Bitcoin should be giving us an indication. Are we going to be coming down to slightly lower levels on these altcoins? We see that Bitcoin ultimately is still within consolidation. It's still within going a sideways price action, which leads me to believe that we could definitely get that altcoin season. When Bitcoin goes sideways, altcoins have an opportunity to run to the upside. Bitcoin having no volatility, not giving us many good trading opportunities, leaves us no other choice but to look for other opportunities, especially the lower cap. So let's look at this in a little bit more detail. What's going on here with Bitcoin? Yes, it is in an ascending triangle, which statistically speaking should break out bullish. Okay, so here on the channel, we're trying to stay one step ahead of the market. This is the daily time frame. The daily time frame is big, a little bit of a big picture here, but we're slowly painting a nice ascending triangle, which could break out bullish. If we get onto the 4-hour, you can see what I mean. This consolidation is looking really nice. Now, as we get closer to the apex of this ascending triangle, you're going to note that ultimately what we're looking for a breakout to the upside, statistically speaking. Now, it doesn't have to happen. It could be even a failed breakout, given the fact that we do have a bit of resistance at about $45,800, give or take. We could definitely wake up, break through this, and then finally get rejected and come right back down. It's very possible. However, guys, in the meantime, the trend is your friend. We're making higher highs and higher lows. This is a bullish pattern to the upside. What I would be doing is trying to DCA at every bottom range possible and, you know, have a stop loss to invalidate your long position just in case. Now, ultimately, what I do feel based on the daily is that we're going to be building a bigger distribution pattern here, potentially coming down to about 30K, maybe as low as 25K. Guys, obviously, I'm not going to put those numbers out there just yet, but I feel like if the momentum does get oversold on the daily, it's going to give us a good opportunity to buy the dips. And I don't know where it's going to land. And obviously, I'll keep you guys posted where I think it's going to get support once we see the momentum oversold. Once we see the momentum oversold, we'll have about 24 hours, 48 hours to start thinking about how we can get offensive, buy the dips, accumulate. But honestly, I won't be accumulating Bitcoin. I'll be looking for altcoin fire sales. Those altcoins will come down heavy and ultimately give us the opportunity to scale in for the up and coming bull run. So keep a list of all those projects that you're interested in for the up and coming bull run, and be prepared if Bitcoin does roll over in the next little while, that we'll have that fire sale opportunity. Guys, join the Discord. We have a lot of good alpha there for you to basically come up with a strategy for your portfolio. We vote on different projects, different coins, and that way we can kind of get a decentralized idea of what is hot in this market. We'll talk more about this live tonight, so feel free to join. All right, guys, so this is Bitcoin. That's my take. I feel like we got to just be very hesitant here with Bitcoin. Don't do anything too risky. Let it do its thing. Let it resolve itself. In the meantime, we'll look for good entries on alts, and if the alts are going to run, let them run, and we'll be there ready to take some profits. All right, guys, today's video, is all about Taraxa. Obviously, I want to take a look at Taraxa. And now that we understand that the Bitcoin price could definitely come down to slightly lower levels, it's going to take its time. And in the meantime, some altcoins that have been retracing could get that bounce to the upside. For example, Taraxa, Bitcoin going sideways, Taraxa coming down, potentially getting some support at this level could give it an opportunity to get a nice bounce to the upside. Now, again, guys, I am not super bullish. What I am saying is that the risk to reward at the current scenario might suggest that getting into a risky position might be beneficial. Why? Because the risk to reward is healthy. Where can you put your stop loss? Your invalidation is quite clear. We have previous highs, we have a bottoms, we have the volume gap that we kind of fell through in. Honestly, it comes to the point where it's like, you know, if you put a stop loss right at about 1.3 cents, 1.2 cents, give or take, it's not a bad idea, but understand that we're still making slightly lower lows. Let's zoom in here for a second. This is the daily. Let's fix some of this, because you can see that in the last little while, we did start developing some sideways price action here. You can see that the RSI on the daily is in the chop zone. 50% mark on the RSI suggests that the price is going to go sideways for the next little while, which for me is not a good trading opportunity, but it is a good accumulation opportunity to build a position for a nice bounce to the upside, right? So, and you can see then the MACD is definitely looking like it wants to roll to the upside, but it is giving us a slight fake out here. You can see that. Look at this. A bit of a fake out, and as we get that fake out, as we get that scenario right here, it could come down for another impulsive move to the downside in the short term, but ultimately look at what's happening here, right? We're trying to get into the bullish control zone once again. So what would I suggest? Ultimately, the daily is not a good time frame to trade Taraxa. Why? It's because it's not oversold on the RSI. The MACD looks a little bit fake outish. It might come down a little bit lower, but if you start looking at the overall perspective, all this area, including this yellow box, is an area where I wouldn't mind starting to accumulate a position. Even as we come down to the bottom of the range through the volume gap, it's still not bad, all in this area. I know it's a little bit of a range here, guys. Let's do a measurement. From here to about here, you're looking at about 20% range, which, guys, is not a big deal, especially if you're accumulating on spot, because what you really have to understand is from the top, all the way to where we are right now, you're basically in a scenario where you're getting a 40% fire sale, give or take, right? So that for me is an opportunity that, you know, basically you can accumulate a lot more tokens, 40% more tokens, more coins here at these lower levels, and accumulating, DCAing slow and steady within the range is a viable option, given the fact that we do have the horizontal support. Look at this volume gap right here. You can see that based on the volume profile that we fell through, we got a bit of support. It does happen, and the support is probably consistent with these previous highs. It's very likely that's what caused the reaction to the upside, but it looks like in the short term we're trying to come back down and test it again. Now, do we make a higher low? If we make a higher low here, it's starting to look like a potential pivot point. Shoulder, head, maybe a shoulder right here. And if we get into the lower time frames, which we'll do in a second, you'll start to see what I mean. So in the meantime, we're definitely making some sort of divergence here on the MACD. You can see that very clearly. Lower lows on the price action, higher lows on the RSI. So for me, that's a time for, watching for horizontal support, and we are currently at horizontal support. Now, we could break down, again, statistically speaking, we could come all the way down to 0.0068, more or less, down here. This is where we have the majority of the supply and demand from the accumulation range that we got into here on the channel. We were buying the dip heavy around this zone. So what we really have to understand is that the majority of the liquidity is down here, but the likelihood of that happening, in my opinion, is quite low. So DCAing is good. Start building a position right into here. If we fall even lower, guys, make sure you have some capital on the side to buy the dip, or even more so, you could always cut yourself off. As soon as we start seeing a level of invalidation on larger time frames, you can cut your losses and reaccumulate at lower levels. But at this current moment, the way we see the market, I am expecting a confirmation high. I want to see the bulls take this price right back up and see what kind of momentum we have left in the bulls. Are we going to make a higher high? Do we make a lower high? Do we make a double top? Some sort of indication that we're going to be rolling over, because at this current moment, all we really have is a descending type of wedge, and this descending wedge technically should break out bullish eventually. Probability, statistically speaking, we are building enough for a bounce to the upside. Okay, so the daily right now is not the greatest thing to be trading using its indicators. However, big picture, it is, because ultimately what it's saying is if we get support here in the chop zone, which we have had in the past, let's kind of bring some price action from the past. You can see the chop zone acted as support of the RSI. Look at the support level and look at the bullish divergence on the MACD. We're repeating a very similar thing here, and the trend is your friend. This time may not be different. I know a lot of the times we expect things to be different, but it may not. Look at the bullish divergence, look at the support on the RSI, and so on. And I remember in this zone getting into the 4-hour, trying to accumulate into the 4-hour. So let's do that right now. Guys, before we go into that, just look at the 200 daily EMA. It is definitely trailing up. It's going to be one of the levels of support. If we do break below this level and get the daily oversold, it is one of those indications, or one of those things that traders use, which is the 200 EMA, to potentially act as support and get that bounce back to the upside if we do happen to break down. But one step at a time, guys. So far, I think that this is the horizontal support. Let's go into the 4-hour, and you can see what's happening here on the 4-hour. A lot of choppy price action here on the momentum. Look at the RSI, barely got overbought, and obviously not even close to oversold, and you can see all this little choppy price action. That leads me to believe that we're in a bit of an accumulation phase in the short term, and you can see a bit of a spike of volume right into here. Okay, this volume suggests that there is market participation that is accumulating at this level, and this head and shoulders type of concept that I was referring to is getting a little bit more clear on the lower time frames. And you can see that ultimately we do have a complex head and shoulder in the works, multiple shoulders, okay, ahead, and then perhaps a few multiple shoulders. And these complex patterns eventually show us a good level of horizontal support, and then we start breaking necklines for an impulsive move to the upside. So for me, this is not a bad opportunity to consider building a small position in this level, because ultimately if we do get that bounce, the question is how high do we go? Now let's look at this from a retracement perspective, because the momentum on the MACD is looking good. The RSI is still in the accumulation phase. We go from swing high to swing low, and we start looking at golden pockets, which, you know, we got rejected at the 0.5 fib already. We can go all the way to the golden pocket. We can get to the 786, which for me would be an indication to be a bit you know, critical about the price action. Do we actually have enough bullish momentum to actually make a higher high and get to the 1.27 extensions? Let's make this a little bit more accurate, and the 1.618 extensions right here. These are levels that from a trading perspective and using Fibonacci theory, especially when you're in price discovery, you could expect reaction. So another impulsive move, maybe to the 1.27, but first we got to break out of this retracement zone. If we get rejected and we see momentum get really overbought on the daily, on the 4-hour, and we see bearish divergence, it's an opportunity to say, hey, you know what, let me trail up a stop loss, let me take 10% off the top, let me get defensive. But at this current position, we see that the 4-hour has not made a decision, and the daily is looking for support. So honestly, it's not a bad opportunity to consider this a DCA zone, and then you got to think about your defensive strategy. Do you put a stop loss under here, or do you just get in with a small position to be able to accumulate again a little bit more at lower levels? You can see that there is a bit of a volume gap. There's a lot of support here, the point of control, and the majority of market participation that got in for this nice impulsive move got in right down here, and that for me is an indication that maybe that's where the market may want to come back down to hunt liquidity, because honestly, obviously, there's the most liquidity at this level. Okay, guys, so that's my take on Terra. The 4-hour is looking good. The daily is looking okay. Ultimately, if you're going to take risk, it's about taking calculated risk with the stop loss. Guys, if I've offered you any value here on the channel, do the channel a huge favor. Obviously, slap the like button. Don't forget, I'm going to be live tonight at 7:30 Eastern talking about crypto news and price action, and it is a great place and time for you to make any requests on any projects that you're interested in. I'll definitely put your requests in top priority. If you want to follow me on those socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join that Discord, guys. The Discord is a great community. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.